What's good, YouTube fam? It's your boy Tony, aka the Senator of Chaos and Controversy, and I'm here again with another unfortunate story about police interaction with civilians. And I said that I was going to exercise, practice what I preached, and balance the scales when it comes to talking about these topics. Um, Partly and mainly because whenever you get a person of color, a person that's black, melanated, or what have you, whatever term you want to use for identification purposes, um, you always get the opposition, white people, who feel some kind of way when you speak for your community, talking about the injustices, pointing out the injustices, um, utilizing your resources and using the references as far as video footages or links or what have you to highlight the injustices or the police misconduct when it comes to their interactions with civilians. Now, I was told under one of the other channels, bro, man, you only seem to focus on black people getting fucked over by the police. You don't say shit about white people. You know, there's white people that get fucked up by the police. And I said, okay, so why aren't the white people's voices being heard? Why isn't there enough noise being made when it comes to injustices in your community? Because it always seems like when black people say something about their community, it's a fucking issue. It's a fucking problem. No one wants to hear it. It's deflected from, conveniently ignored, downplayed, or the justifications are implemented. And as I said before, I'm not ignorant or nor am I dismissive and saying I'm purposely not acknowledging the fact that, you know, that law enforcement doesn't affect other communities as far as whether or not um, their misconduct, plays a part in whether a life is lost or there was an unlawful arrest or whatever the case may be. I'm aware of that. But like I said, how is it that other people, or why is it that other people have to be the voice or made to be sacrifices in order for policies to change? And for all the Americans, as some may preach, if there are examples where you can relate to what black people are going through because your community is suffering the same fucking fate, then instead of protesting against, instead of arguing against, instead of complaining against, say, hey, neighbor, I feel your pain. Our community is suffering the same type of bullshit at the hands of fucking police. It isn't just a black issue. But no, we want to entertain stupid rhetoric, and it just doesn't happen on one side. It happens on both sides of the fence. But anyway,
I'm highlighting these stories because they exist in the context of why police reform is required. It should be mandated by all communities, not just black and brown communities, not just progressive communities, but all communities. Let me take you to Arkansas. A 17-year-old kid, a child, was putting a jug of antifreeze behind the back of his tire so his vehicle would not roll into the officer's car. He had just been pulled over. He was working on...
Now, you heard what he said. The purpose of why this teenager was placing this jug behind us because he didn't want it. So, in other words, it was the consideration of the safety of the officer that was going through this kid's mind. Okay? But here we are again.
His truck had an issue where if he parked it, it would have a tendency to roll back. So when he got pulled over, he was being courteous to make sure that this vehicle that he was working on did not hit the deputy's car. So he pulled out the jug of antifreeze to put it behind this tire to stop it from rolling back. And this Lonoke County sergeant killed him, shot him in the neck. The deputy is on paid administrative leave.
Now, you shoot a teen in the neck, poses no immediate threat, didn't have a weapon in hand, and if you think, oh, I feared for my life because he had a jug of antifreeze, miss me with that bullshit. Please do not even go that fucking route. See, here's the problem where people want to jump up and immediately suggest, oh, people are anti-police. How about people start patenting the idea that maybe police are anti-civilians? Because how the fuck are you going to shoot somebody in the fucking neck? A kid. At that. Who was considering your safety.
So let me give you some background to this story. During a traffic stop last week in Arkansas, sheriff's deputy shot and killed a teenage boy who was only armed with a neon blue jug of antifreeze, according to the family members. Sergeant Michael Davis, and I've been looking high and low for a picture of this guy. Sergeant Michael Davis stopped 17-year-old Hunter Brittain near Cabot, Arkansas, at about 3 a.m. last Wednesday, and it's still unclear why. Hunter had been having trouble with his truck when Davis pulled in behind him outside of a local auto repair shop and flashed his emergency lights, according to the account of a 16-year-old riding with Hunter at the time. The shifting linkage in the truck was messed up, so when they pulled up, the truck was rolling back. Jesse Brittain told Vice News. That's why Hunter went to get the antifreeze. Jordan King, the teen with Hunter the night of the incident, told local ABC affiliate KATV that Davis didn't say anything to Hunter before shooting him. Said nothing. Killed this 17-year-old kid. I believe the witnesses. I believe these other young people.
Just a young kid.
That's a picture.
Just starting his life.
Hunter with a young lady. Sad. Now, the citizens of Lonoke County, they are protesting.
As they should. As they fucking should.
Police misconduct, alleged misconduct, and I believe it is misconduct here. They are protesting because the sheriff's office, they have not given the family answers that they deserve. They are protesting because...
Why is it that when they investigate their own and the family by right, you took a life of their loved ones away from them, but you don't want to provide answers in regards to your fellow officers' actions that took the life of someone? But it amazes me how whenever it's an officer's life that's in danger or an officer that got killed, oh, it is nothing. They go to no end to want to get blood for the people or persons responsible or involved for killing one of their own. Except for if it's them killing their own. But that's a different topic for another discussion on a different day. But anyway, and it's just disrespectful. Now, here's the thing. Whenever police talk about, hey, we want you to see us being humans. We want you to sympathize with us. We want you to be on our side because we have families that we go home to. But what about the families that you take from family? What about their kids? And this is why I try to explain And now I'm gonna say it as a generalization. This is why I try to say it to white people. When you want to sit there with your condescending attitudes and look down upon black people and say this is what you get, those dragons that you support, that you feel can be tamed, that you feel are no threat to your community, it's crazy that you support these law officers based on blind assumption that they won't turn against you. And people have warned you, a day will come when they will turn against your community. So when they get done fucking with the black community and they say, oh, we're tired of fucking with them because now, there's too much attention drawn to that area on what we do to this group of people, who you think is going to be the next that they turn their backs on and start targeting? But no one wanted to listen. No one wanted to listen. So here is where we are now today. And I'm not saying this just to be an asshole. I'm not saying this to be condescending. I'm saying heed the warning next time. When somebody try to tell you something, don't be dismissive.
Of how the other teenager was treated after they shot and killed the 17-year-old. And here's a little bit of that protest.
This is white rage right here. This is them saying we don't accept this bullshit.
You see, we dispense truth on this show. So let me say something very sobering to everybody watching this. If you say nothing when they're knocking on your neighbor's door, if you say nothing when they're knocking on your neighbor's door, why don't you think they're going to end up knocking on yours? We have been screaming and shouting. The blood of unarmed black men and women, brown men and women, has been screaming and shouting from the soil. Do something. Do something about out of control policing in the United States of America. But what happened? Even with almost 95% of Americans believing some level of police reform should take place, 58% of Americans believing it should be dramatic. Hell, 51% of Republicans saying police reform is required. No police reform happens. They're not held accountable.
Never.
Even now, the person who killed the 17-year-old kid who was trying to be courteous
is on paid
by
administrative
making sure his
leave.
truck did not hit this cruiser. That person is on paid administrative leave. Now, the state of Arkansas has picked up the case. We will see what happens. We're going to continue to follow it. Adrian, I want you to give your legal expertise here.
Again, it's not me saying or being like, unsympathetic, not empathizing, because I don't agree with how police treat people when they are out of control or held without any accountability. But again, it's always the citizens that are held at a higher standard when in the presence of law enforcement. We didn't go to training. We don't know all these laws that they have on the books. 9 times out of 10, and like I said, they're quick rebuttal to us when we violate something. Instead of using their discretion and say, hey, you know what, you may have not been aware of this, but this is an infraction, right? Next time, just be mindful of, when you cross the street or when you do this, because next time, this might warrant you a ticket. No. They come at you with, you're the civilian, you ought to know the law. This is the reason why I say, depending on where you are, what state you are, whatever the case may be, they need to have class. Fuck the CRT. Now I'm saying fuck the CRT. What they need to do is have kids study agriculture, learn agriculture, and study law, especially the laws that they have within their state, so that they wouldn't be ignorant of the laws that they have to abide by, because most of us don't know all the laws that we have to abide by. Because there's so many of them that's on the fucking books that it's fucking ridiculous that I say they should get rid of this shit. But they use that to control you, to extort money from you, and all of that. And they say that's not what we do. So why do you have it? You generate revenue through all these citations, but then you still claim that your town is broke or that your city's broke or what have you. But all this money are going to where? Either it's funding the police departments, which is 9 times out of 10 corrupt, or these politicians, these mayors, or these governors, or what have you. Meanwhile, your pockets are flat. Don't get me started. Please don't get me started.
As an attorney, what do you see? What are the variables you see right away?
Well, the officer is going to have to be in a position where they've got to show that they acted reasonably under the circumstances here to even enjoy any semblance of qualified immunity. And the fact that as you mentioned, being armed with a jug of antifreeze, it wouldn't seem in any way legitimate to me for an officer to confuse that with a potentially deadly weapon such as a gun. But also, I'm sure what the officer is going to say is that this young man was turning such that they weren't sure what he was turning around with. But the reality is that people move, and people move in various directions. So for police to always assume that in any way that the person who's moving that I am stopping or speaking with must be using deadly force against me is a huge part of the problem. I just think that is extremely unreasonable, and this child has lost their lives as a result of it. And so we will see how this ends up playing out, but I think we can maybe largely garner that people might give this a little bit more attention in terms of people with power.
I hope it does.
Because this was a promising young white
Because
man with
now
a future
a family
ahead,
has lost their
and,
child
hey, his life was taken,
at the
and
hands of law
unfortunately,
enforcement.
having a lot of black young men and black young women be murdered by police isn't enough to gain the attention of people in power. But maybe, just maybe this one will be enough.
Just maybe. We'll see what happens.
Which is unfortunate.
Nothing can bring back the 17-year-old, just like nothing can bring back George Floyd. Nothing can bring back Breonna Taylor. Nothing can bring back the countless young men and women who have been killed by members of law enforcement for simply existing, for simply being there. But we have been saying it's out of control for a long time. But you know what else is out of control? And this is my issue with a lot of people who are protesting this right now. Some of those same people will protect policies like qualified immunity. Let's talk about qualified immunity for a minute. You know, as an attorney, Adrian, that tort law has a way of checking an industry, checking a profession. Because of the existence of tort law, you have medical doctors better than ever. Still not, 100% perfect, but they're better than ever because there's a liability connected to your profession. And because of
that's the thing. When there's no liability, no accountability that falls on the officer, I'm not talking about the department. I'm not talking about other officers that had nothing to do with the officer that was in direct violation of policy. And the people that should be mad when it comes to these people getting off and still having a job and who has to foot the bill, it's not coming out the department's pockets. It's not coming out the judges or the prosecutor's pockets. It's coming out my pocket, your pocket, the taxpayers' pockets that work. And when these officers fuck up, we're the ones that's left footing the bill. We didn't kill the person. We didn't take this family member from their family. We didn't act with negligence. This kid didn't come across my path and then ended up getting killed. No, he was in the presence of an officer who took it upon himself to kill him. So how are we responsible for someone else's actions? And how people could not see that shit and be okay with it is beyond me. That's that conditioning fuckery that I be talking about. Oh, well, okay. You want me to pay for somebody else's bullshit? Okay. Well, there's nothing that I could do about it. My taxes automatically go towards funding this and funding that, so what can I say? What can I do? Okay.
this liability, it has caused the profession to analyze itself every year and make sure that you restrict the liabilities associated with that profession, because you do not have the same self-analytical behavior inside of the industry of policing. And because you have qualified immunity, they have no reason to be self-critical, self-analytical of their own industry to lower or restrict their liability as it relates to members of the community. Am I right on that?
Nope, you're absolutely right on that. And for those who aren't really sure what tort liability is, it's essentially harm that you do to another person. That means that I, as a member of the society, can sue the other person, whereas criminal law means that you'll have a prosecutor or someone who represents a state or government body suing on your behalf. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. The fact is that with tort law, it does create checks on certain industries, so people will get better, because if everyone can sue when you're, not meeting standards, then you're probably going to get right, because, hey, it'll end up being pretty costly at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it's twofold. One is you start transforming the culture of the industry, and two, you attract a different kind of individual to the industry as well. A person who is well aware of the barriers and the level of accountability involved in the profession.
Yep, and the thing is, like you mentioned with policing, when the barriers aren't very high, and when the standards are extremely low in terms of performance, and there is low level of accountability,
And that's a problem.
then you're going to have a lot of people out here making these gut reactions and responses that are completely and totally unreasonable, but they're not going to change or get any better because there are no consequences. So there's really no incentive.
So that's what it boils down to. No accountability, no liability, and no consequences. But let us make a mistake. Let us be in violation of. We're either arrested, thrown in jail, or cited. Anyway, that's it. That's what I got for today. I'm going to take a break. I think I pumped out enough videos for today. Until next time, until next video, please like, share, and subscribe. Yes, this is under the Young Turks channel. I don't really follow them too much because, again, they're more of a lot of, and sometimes they exaggerate on a lot of stuff too. But with this particular affiliate that's to the Turks channel, um, I believe he balances out like certain topics, especially when it comes to law enforcement, because he doesn't just make it a black and white issue. He's trying to make it fair, looking at both sides of the lens. So this is what caught my attention, aside from him having Brandon Tatum on. But anyway.